What happens when Hollywood's most controversial wellness guru sits down with daytime television's most outspoken skeptic? The answer lies in one of the most explosive moments in modern daytime TV history, a confrontation so tense, so unexpected, that it left audiences stunned and culminated in a shocking walk-off that no one saw coming. What was supposed to be a routine celebrity appearance quickly spiraled into a full-blown war of words. Viewers tuned in expecting light conversation, lifestyle talk, and promotional soundbites. Instead, they witnessed an unfiltered clash of ideologies, personalities, and egos, one that exposed the fragile balance between celebrity culture, skepticism, and the business of belief. It all began on a quiet Tuesday morning when Gwyneth Paltrow glided onto the View set with her trademark serenity. Dressed in an elegant cream-colored blazer that softly reflected the studio lights, she looked every bit the modern wellness icon she had cultivated over the years. Her presence was calm, almost ethereal, as if she had stepped straight out of a meditation retreat rather than a bustling New York television studio. The audience greeted her with warm applause, a mix of admiration and curiosity hanging thick in the air. As she settled into the guest chair, Gwyneth offered her signature smile, a practiced expression that conveyed peace, confidence, and a deep belief in her own worldview. It was the kind of calm that comes not only from years of meditation and mindfulness practices, but also from occupying a rare space in Hollywood where influence, wealth, and personal philosophy intersect. Whoopi Goldberg, the show's moderator and longtime co-host, welcomed her with unmistakable warmth. "Gwyneth, it's always such a pleasure to have you here," Whoopi said, her voice genuine and relaxed. "You look absolutely radiant as always." "Thank you so much, Whoopi," Gwyneth replied smoothly. "I'm thrilled to be back." Her voice carried that distinctive blend of Hollywood polish and wellness, guru confidence, an intonation that had made her both adored by fans and fiercely criticized by skeptics. The conversation opened on familiar, comfortable ground. Sarah Haynes leaned forward, visibly eager to engage. "So tell us about your latest venture with Goop," she said. "I hear you're expanding into some really innovative territory." At the mention of her lifestyle brand, Gwyneth's eyes lit up. This was her domain. This was where she felt most at home. "We are, Sarah," she said enthusiastically. "We're really pushing the boundaries of what wellness can mean in people's lives. Wellness isn't just about diet or exercise anymore, it's about energy, intention, and how we connect with ourselves on a deeper level." She paused briefly, then continued with clear excitement. "We've just launched a new line of frequency, enhanced water that's been restructured at the molecular level to optimize cellular hydration." There was a noticeable shift in the room. Sunny Hostin tilted her head, intrigued but cautious. "That sounds fascinating," Sunny said carefully. "How exactly does that work?" Gwyneth leaned in slightly, her tone confident, almost professorial. "Well, it's based on cutting-edge research into water memory and vibrational healing," she explained. "The idea is that water isn't just a passive substance. It actually holds energetic information. By restructuring it using specific frequencies, we can help align the body at a cellular level." Some audience members nodded. Others exchanged uncertain glances. While the conversation remained polite on the surface, a subtle tension had begun to form. The claims Gwyneth was making about molecular restructuring and vibrational frequencies were familiar territory for her brand, but they had also long been the subject of criticism from scientists, doctors, and skeptics alike. One of the co-hosts shifted in her seat, her expression tightening. The atmosphere in the studio, once light and celebratory, now carried an undercurrent of unease. This was no longer just a celebrity interview. It was the beginning of an ideological confrontation. As Gwyneth continued speaking, elaborating on holistic alignment and energetic wellness, the divide between belief and skepticism became impossible to ignore. What some saw as innovation, others saw as pseudoscience. What Gwyneth framed as empowerment, critics viewed as exploitation of vulnerable consumers. And it was at this exact moment, when the conversation teetered on the edge between curiosity and confrontation, that the interview took its dramatic turn. What followed was not scripted. It was not planned. And it would soon become one of the most talked-about moments in daytime television history. Viewers at home leaned closer to their screens, The audience held its breath. And within minutes, a calm conversation about wellness would erupt into a fiery exchange that ended with a stunned studio, one A-list actress standing up and walking off the set in fury. The studio lights glowed warmly, casting a polished sheen over the set, as Gwyneth spoke with the calm assurance of someone deeply convinced of her own message. She sat upright in her chair, hands loosely folded in her lap, explaining that the water molecules had been exposed to specific sound frequencies designed to enhance their natural healing properties. Her voice was smooth, almost soothing, the kind of tone used by someone accustomed to speaking about wellness, balance, and intention. To her, this wasn't speculation or marketing spin, it was truth, delivered with serene confidence. But across the table, Joy Behar had been silent for far too long. She leaned back in her chair, arms crossed tightly over her chest, her face locked in an expression that radiated barely contained disdain. Her eyes narrowed as Gwyneth spoke, each sentence seeming to irritate her more than the last. The longer the explanation went on, the heavier the tension in the room became. The audience could feel it. The co-hosts could feel it. Even the producers behind the cameras sensed that something was about to explode. Finally, Joy couldn't hold back any longer. "Oh, come on," she interrupted sharply, her voice dripping with sarcasm as she leaned forward. "Frequency? Enhanced water? Are you seriously sitting here trying to sell people expensive water based on pseudoscience?" The atmosphere shifted instantly, like a storm cloud rolling into a previously calm sky. A murmur rippled through the audience. Gwyneth's serene expression faltered for just a fraction of a second. Barely noticeable, but there. She blinked once, inhaled slowly, and straightened her shoulders, determined not to lose her composure. "Joy," she replied carefully, choosing her words with precision, "I understand that some people are skeptical of alternative approaches to health and wellness." "Skeptical?" Joy shot back, the word laced with disbelief. She leaned forward aggressively now, hands gripping the edge of the table. "I'm not skeptical. I'm rational. You're literally trying to convince people that water has memory. That's not alternative medicine. That's a fairy tale." A sharp intake of breath echoed from somewhere in the audience. Whoopi Goldberg shifted uncomfortably in her seat, sensing the conversation spiraling out of control. She raised a hand slightly, attempting to intervene before things went too far. "Joy, let's keep this respectful," Whoopi said calmly, her voice firm but measured. But Joy was just getting started. "Respectful?" she snapped, turning briefly toward Whoopi before swinging her gaze back to Gwyneth. "Whoopi, she's charging people $200 for a bottle of water that she claims has magical properties. How is that not a scam?" The word hung in the air like a slap. Gwyneth's cheeks flushed slightly, a hint of color rising beneath her otherwise composed exterior. Still, her voice remained steady, though now edged with restraint. "Joy, I think you're mischaracterizing what we do. Goop has always been about empowering people to explore what works for their individual bodies and minds. We're not forcing anyone to buy anything." "Empowering," Joy echoed, her voice rising as disbelief turned into outright anger. "You're exploiting vulnerable people, people who are sick, scared, and desperate for answers. You wrap it up in pretty language and call it wellness, but at the end of the day, you're selling false hope at a luxury price." The audience erupted into scattered applause, mixed with gasps. Gwyneth's jaw tightened slightly. For the first time, the calm facade showed cracks. She leaned forward, mirroring Joy's posture, though her tone remained controlled. "I completely disagree with that characterization," she said firmly. "People are capable of making informed choices. Many individuals feel underserved by conventional medicine and are looking for complementary options. We provide access to conversations and products that resonate with them." Joy let out a short, humorless laugh. "Conversations," she scoffed. "You're not starting conversations. You're monetizing them. There's a difference." Whoopi tried again to de-escalate. "All right, let's take a breath." "No." Joy cut in, shaking her head. "This matters. When celebrities use their influence to promote unproven claims, it's dangerous. People trust you. They listen to you. And when you tell them that charged water can heal them, you're crossing a line." Gwyneth's eyes hardened slightly. "With respect, Joy, we're very clear about encouraging people to listen to their own bodies and consult professionals. Wellness isn't one size fits all. and neither is reality. Joy fired back. Science isn't a lifestyle choice. Facts don't change because they're inconvenient to your brand. The room fell into stunned silence. Even the co-hosts stopped shifting in their seats. For a brief moment, no one spoke. The cameras lingered on Gwyneth's face as she exhaled slowly, clearly weighing whether to respond or let the moment pass. Finally, she spoke, her voice quieter now but resolute. I believe people deserve agency over their health journeys. That's what we stand for. Joy leaned back, arms crossing once again, her expression unyielding. And I believe people deserve honesty. The tension lingered thick in the studio as the producers scrambled for a commercial break, the hosts painfully aware that what began as a routine interview had transformed into a raw, unfiltered confrontation, one that neither side was willing to back down from. You take advantage of people who are desperate for solutions to their health problems, Joy Behar said sharply, her voice cutting through the studio air like a blade. You exploit their trust and sell them overpriced nonsense with absolutely no scientific backing whatsoever. A collective discomfort rippled across the panel. The other hosts exchanged uneasy glances, sensing that the conversation had crossed a line from spirited debate into something far more volatile. The warmth that had filled the studio just minutes earlier evaporated, replaced by a thick, oppressive tension that felt impossible to ignore. Sarah Haynes, visibly alarmed, attempted to intervene. Leaning forward with a nervous smile, she tried to steer the discussion back toward safer ground. Maybe we could shift gears and talk about your acting projects, she suggested carefully, hoping to diffuse the growing confrontation. But Joy wasn't finished, not even close. No, Joy said firmly, shaking her head. I want to talk about this because this actually matters. She turned directly toward Gwyneth, her expression resolute. Gwyneth, you have a platform, you have enormous influence, and instead of using that influence responsibly, you use it to promote products and treatments that could genuinely harm people. The studio fell even quieter. And let's not pretend this is hypothetical. Joy continued. What about the jade egg fiasco? The FDA had to step in because your company was making medical claims about a literal piece of stone, something women were being told to insert into their bodies for health benefits. For the first time since she had walked onto the set, Gwyneth's serene exterior began to falter. Her smile stiffened, her jaw tightening ever so slightly. That situation was blown completely out of proportion by the media. Gwyneth replied, her tone controlled but strained. The jade egg is an ancient practice. Many women find it beneficial for pelvic floor health and personal well-being. Ancient practice? Joy scoffed, incredulity dripping from her voice. Just because something is old doesn't mean it's good. Bloodletting is an ancient practice too. Should we bring that back while we're at it? A few audience members gasped softly. That's a ridiculous comparison. Gwyneth snapped back, her voice losing its airy calm and revealing flashes of irritation beneath the surface. Is it, though? Joy pressed relentlessly. Because the pattern is the same. You sell vaginal steaming treatments that gynecologists warn can cause serious infections. You promote supplements that interact dangerously with prescription medications. You push detox regimens that medical professionals say do absolutely nothing. Joy leaned forward now, emboldened by the silence around her. And worst of all, she continued, you sell the idea that people can cure life, threatening illnesses with positive thinking, crystals, and expensive smoothies. I have never told anyone to avoid conventional medical treatment. Gwyneth protested, her composure slipping further with each word. Her voice trembled slightly, betraying her growing frustration. That's simply not true. Maybe not directly. Joy shot back without missing a beat. But you imply it constantly. You create this narrative where Western medicine is cold, corrupt, and profit-driven, while your alternatives are pure, natural, enlightened, and somehow superior. Joy's tone hardened. You prey on people's distrust of the medical establishment, people who are scared, people who are sick, people who are vulnerable. Sunny Hostin jumped in, her hands raised slightly in a calming gesture. Okay, let's slow this down, she said gently. I think emotions are running high here. But Joy wasn't backing down. No, Joy said, shaking her head again. What I'm saying is actually very simple. She turned back to Gwyneth, locking eyes with her. I'm saying that Gwyneth Paltrow has built a massive business empire by misleading women and charging them premium prices for products that range from completely useless to potentially dangerous. The studio audience had gone completely silent now. No applause, no murmurs, just a heavy, suffocating stillness. Everyone could sense that this moment had gone far beyond the boundaries of typical daytime television banter. Cameras continued to roll as Gwyneth sat frozen in her chair. Her hands resting in her lap were now visibly trembling. The carefully curated image of calm, enlightened wellness had begun to unravel under the pressure. "Joy," Gwyneth finally said, her voice tight with restrained anger, "that is completely unfair." She inhaled sharply, struggling to regain control. "You're attacking me personally instead of engaging with the actual science behind what we do." But even as she spoke, it was clear that the damage had already been done. The confrontation had exposed a deep and irreconcilable divide between belief and skepticism, celebrity influence, and scientific responsibility. And as the tension continued to rise, it became painfully obvious to everyone watching that this interview was no longer about wellness products or lifestyle brands. It was about accountability. "What science?" Joy shot back immediately, her patience clearly exhausted. She didn't pause to soften the blow or wait for permission to speak. "Show me one peer-reviewed study that proves your frequency water works. Just one." She raised a finger for emphasis. "Show me legitimate clinical trials for your energy healing patches. Show me any credible, independent research that supports 90% of what Goop sells." The words came fast and relentless, like a prosecutor delivering a closing argument. Gwyneth opened her mouth to respond, but Joy didn't give her the chance. "You can't," Joy continued, her voice rising with certainty, "because there isn't any. You hide behind vague phrases like ancient wisdom and alternative healing, but what you're really doing is taking advantage of people who are struggling with their health, their bodies, and their self-esteem. That is absolutely not true." Gwyneth fired back, her voice rising for the first time since the confrontation began. The calm, meditative tone she'd started the interview with was gone now, replaced by raw emotion. "Goop has helped millions of women feel empowered about their health and wellness choices." "Empowered to waste their money on snake oil," Joy retorted instantly, not missing a beat. The audience gasped, a mix of applause and shock rippling through the studio. Whoopi Goldberg leaned forward urgently, her hands raised in a calming gesture. "Ladies, let's take a breath here and try to have a constructive conversation." But it was too late. The damage was done. Gwyneth's carefully maintained Zen-like persona had completely evaporated. In its place stood someone visibly wounded and furious, fueled by the kind of righteous indignation that only comes from believing, truly believing, that you're being unfairly attacked. "Joy," Gwyneth said, her voice trembling with barely controlled fury, "I came here today as a guest on your show to talk about my work and my passion for helping people live healthier lives. Instead, you've ambushed me with a character assassination based on misinformation and deliberate misrepresentation of what Goop actually does." Joy leaned back in her chair, folding her arms, a satisfied smirk tugging at the corner of her mouth. "Ambushed you? This is called journalism, Gwyneth. These are legitimate questions about your business practices that affect real people." "Journalism," Gwyneth repeated, disbelief cracking her voice. "You call this journalism? You haven't asked me a single genuine question. You've done nothing but launch attack after attack based on tabloid headlines and internet conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories." Joy shot back, her eyes flashing dangerously. "So FDA warnings about your products are conspiracy theories now? Lawsuits from customers who were harmed by following your advice, those are conspiracies? Medical professionals who have publicly criticized your dangerous recommendations, are they all part of some big plot against you too?" The studio felt like it was holding its breath. Sarah Haynes glanced desperately toward the producers off camera, her eyes silently pleading for someone, anyone, to step in and stop the train wreck unfolding live on air. But Gwyneth was past the point of polite redirection. "You want to talk about harm?" she said sharply, leaning forward. "Let's talk about the harm you're doing right now. You're sitting here on national television spreading lies about a company that employs hundreds of people and has helped countless individuals on their wellness journeys. Wellness journeys," Joy repeated slowly, practically spitting the words. You mean expensive shopping sprees for products that don't work? Your customers aren't going on wellness journeys. They're being taken for a ride by a celebrity who thinks her fame gives her the right to play doctor. The color drained from Gwyneth's face. How dare you suggest that I think I'm playing doctor? She snapped. I have never ever claimed to be a medical professional. Goop clearly states that our products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Oh, please, Joy scoffed, rolling her eyes dramatically. You hide behind those legal disclaimers, while your marketing materials are filled with testimonials about miracle cures and life-changing transformations. You know exactly what you're implying, even if your lawyers made sure the fine print protects you. Sunny Hostin tried once more to intervene, her voice cutting in cautiously. Okay, maybe we can. No. Joy interrupted again, shaking her head. This matters. When influential people promote unproven health claims, real people get hurt. Hope is powerful, and when you sell false hope, that's not empowerment, it's exploitation. Gwyneth clenched her jaw, her eyes shining with a mix of anger and disbelief. You're twisting everything I stand for. People are capable of making their own choices. They come to Goop because traditional systems have failed them, because they want to explore holistic approaches to feeling better. And that desperation is exactly what you profit from. Joy shot back. You dress it up with candles, crystals, and buzzwords, but at the end of the day, it's still marketing fear and insecurity. The tension in the studio was suffocating. Producers were undoubtedly screaming in earpieces, counting down to a commercial break, but neither woman showed any sign of backing down. This is unfair, Gwyneth said finally, her voice quieter but no less intense. You're reducing years of work, research, and community building into sound bites designed to humiliate me. Joy leaned forward one last time, her tone sharp but unwavering. And you're reducing science into something optional. Fame doesn't make misinformation harmless, Gwyneth. It makes it dangerous. Silence fell over the table. For a brief moment, no one spoke. The confrontation had gone far beyond a spirited debate. It had become a full-blown ideological collision between belief and evidence, wellness culture, and scientific scrutiny. As the cameras lingered and the hosts sat frozen in place, it was painfully clear that what was supposed to be a routine daytime interview had turned into something far messier, far louder, and far more uncomfortable, an argument neither side would ever truly win. I think both perspectives have merit here, Sunny Hostin said carefully, sensing how dangerously heated the exchange had become. There's room for both conventional medicine and alternative approaches. Joy Behar whipped her head toward her co-host, eyes blazing. No, Sunny, she snapped. There isn't room for dangerous misinformation dressed up as wellness advice. She turned back to Gwyneth, her voice rising with controlled fury. When you tell women they can balance their hormones with $1,000 necklace, that's not an alternative approach. That's fraud. I have never sold a $1,000 necklace for hormone balancing, Gwyneth protested, her voice climbing toward a shout as the room held its breath. Maybe not with those exact words, Joy fired back instantly, but you've sold crystal healing jewelry for hundreds of dollars while making claims about energy alignment and chakra balancing. What's the difference? The difference, Gwyneth shot back, is that you're deliberately distorting everything I say and everything Goop represents. You've clearly made up your mind to tear me down, regardless of the facts. The facts? Joy let out a harsh, humorless laugh. Here's a fact for you. Your company has paid settlements in multiple lawsuits over false advertising. Here's another fact. The California Food, Drug, and Medical Device Task Force specifically cited Goop for making unsubstantiated health claims. Those aren't opinions, Gwyneth. Those are documented facts. Gwyneth gripped the arms of her chair so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her hands were visibly shaking now. Those settlements were made to avoid costly litigation. She said stiffly, not because we admitted wrongdoing, and the California issue was a misunderstanding that was resolved amicably. A misunderstanding, Joy repeated, her voice dripping with contempt. You were caught making medical claims about unregulated supplements, and you call it a misunderstanding. How convenient. Joy, you're being incredibly unfair, Gwyneth said, her composure finally cracking. Emotion crept unmistakably into her voice. "You're twisting everything I say." "I'm not twisting anything," Joy replied coldly. "I'm repeating your own marketing claims back to you. You're the one who promoted psychic vampire repellent spray. You're the one who claimed bras cause cancer. You're the one who pushed coffee enemas as detox treatments." "I never said bras cause cancer," Gwyneth protested weakly. "Your website published an article suggesting underwire bras could increase breast cancer risk." Joy shot back without hesitation. "Don't try to gaslight me, and don't try to gaslight your audience." Whoopi Goldberg made one last attempt to salvage the situation. "Let's agree to disagree and move on to something lighter," she urged, but Joy was fully locked in now. "No, Whoopi, this is too important," she said firmly. "This woman has built a multi-million-dollar empire by exploiting women's insecurities and health fears. She deserves to be held accountable." Gwyneth's voice dropped to a trembling whisper, but the anger behind it was unmistakable. "What damage, Joy? What specific damage have I done? Name one person who's been harmed by following Goop's recommendations." Joy didn't hesitate. "How about the women who suffered burns from your yoni steam treatments? How about the customers who delayed real medical care because they believed your supplements would cure serious illnesses? How about the people who went into debt buying your overpriced placebos instead of investing in actual healthcare?" "You're making that up," Gwyneth said, but the lack of conviction was obvious. "Am I?" Joy leaned forward menacingly. "Because I can cite specific cases, names, medical records, if you really want to go down that road." The studio fell so silent that the microphones picked up Gwyneth's rapid breathing. Her flawless makeup now showed faint cracks under the pressure. Her hands were clenched in her lap, trembling uncontrollably. "This is unbelievable," she said finally. "I came here to discuss my work, and instead I'm being subjected to a trial by a television host with a personal vendetta." "Personal vendetta?" Joy replied icily. "I don't know you personally, and I don't care about you personally. What I care about is protecting vulnerable people from predators who use celebrity status to sell false hope." The word predators hung in the air like an explosion. Gwyneth's face drained of color. "Did you just call me a predator?" she whispered. Joy didn't blink. "If the shoe fits." The audience gasped. "What else do you call someone who targets vulnerable women and sells them false hope at premium prices?" "I can't believe this," Gwyneth whispered, shaking her head in disbelief. "You're calling me a predator on national television because I run a wellness company." "I'm calling you what you are," Joy said bluntly, "a celebrity who monetized desperation." Gwyneth's breathing became shallow and erratic. "You don't know what you're talking about," she insisted. "I get letters every day from women thanking me for helping them." "Oh, I'm sure you do," Joy waved dismissively. "That's how con artists operate. Anecdotes and emotions instead of evidence. Con artist." Gwyneth's voice shattered completely. Sarah Haynes looked ready to crawl under the table. "Maybe we should take a commercial break." "No," Joy said firmly. "We're having an important conversation." Tears streamed down Gwyneth's face now. "I am done," she said, standing abruptly. "This is a public execution." "Then leave," Joy replied coldly, "but don't pretend you're the victim." Gwyneth grabbed her purse and turned toward the edge of the set. Running away, Joy called after her. Typical. Gwyneth spun back one last time, tears streaking her mascara. "I'm walking away from a bully." "I understand you perfectly." Joy delivered the final blow. "You just can't handle the truth." Without another word, Gwyneth turned and walked off the set, leaving behind stunned silence, an empty chair, and one of the most brutal confrontations in daytime television history.